the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour, with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Appleton.
Touchdown! All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. AJ is unfortunately not going to be able to join us tonight, or at least I don't think he will. Maybe we'll get a surprise visit from him later tonight. But in the meantime, brought on another fellow Fantasy Six-Pack staff member here. You guys know him from, I think, Friday night, typically. Right? I don't know. You've moved in a couple of times.
We're a little inconsistent. Always by Friday for sure.
Yeah. Him and Joe Matz get on here on the YouTube channel or wherever you're listening and do their DFS content here. And of course, Keith has his Stacks and Value Plays article up every week. And in fact, right now, he's got his Thanksgiving Day picks out. We're doing that one free for everybody. So tomorrow's picks all up there for free at FantasySixPack.net. So go ahead and check that out. You do pretty well with those, man. What's up, Albert? Always here first, man. Love to see it. I always got to shout that out. Love it. Before we jump into things, though, let's we'll just remind everybody, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leave those comments. We love hearing from you. And, of course, jump over to FantasySixPack.net. Become an all-access member. You get access to the award-winning rankings. I'm number 4 right now. I believe Steve Hungarner, IDP Hunter, is somewhere in the top 10 of the IDP. I know that for a fact. Dennis doesn't have his IDP rankings on our site, but he's hovering around there too. But that just means you can jump over to the Discord and ask both of them questions, myself questions, Keith questions, Dave Eddy questions, Chris Robin. There's tons of our staff over there on Discord where you can ask all of your custom advice, custom league questions, and we break it down, man. Like we really do. Like people ask trade questions. We ask, what's your roster? What's this? What's your depth? That kind of stuff. And we really break it down. We really think about it. We don't just give you like yeah, that's fine, do that. No, like we really break it down. I mean, unless it's like a slam dunk trade. Those don't come through very often though, but it's fun to kind of get down into the weeds of some of this stuff with our members. So we are doing a Black Friday deal. Promo code Black Friday saves you 48% on all of our plans. So that's a hell of a deal. Not gonna lie, it's the best one we've ever done by far. So go ahead and jump over there and hit us up. And yeah, man. So Keith, let's get started here. And I got a couple of topics I threw here on the top of the show. I'm going to surprise you with one just because you wrote the article. Let's talk about these Thanksgiving Day games tomorrow, right? This is a big day. Like a lot of people are sitting around with family,
are trying to avoid sitting around with their family. So that's what 3 games of football is for.
I mean, I didn't say it. You did.
Oh, I did. Avoid politics. Avoid religion.
Oh my goodness.
Watch and talk football. You know how it is. Everybody's got that one family member that just all the topics that you shouldn't discuss, they just throw it out there 20 minutes into everybody arriving, and you're like, dude, really?
Like, no, we good, dog. Please,
yeah,
let's keep it
hard
nice.
pass.
Yeah. So let's start off with the first game of the action here, and the Bears and Lions game. Pretty interesting one, for many, many years, right? The Lions were like, really, why do we have to watch this team on Thanksgiving every single year? They're awful. Dude, they are legit. Like, I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the season started.
Good for you.
I didn't throw any money down on it. I kind of wish I'd done that now. Looking good. But Bears defense is always going to keep them in some games, it feels like. It's just which offense shows up. So what's your quick breakdown of this game, man?
I like the Bears to cover and think they're going to be in this game. Since they've made the change to Thomas Brown at offensive coordinator, The offense looks much better. They've really honed in on the big issues with Caleb Williams. He can't hold on to the football. This is the NFL. Nobody can do that and succeed. I don't care how talented you are. His average time of throw is under 3 seconds. No surprise. His numbers look a lot better. They're, surprise, like just targeting and having their top receivers on the field, which that always helps. It's been just a heavy dose of Allen, Moore, Adunze, Komet, and that's it. Nobody else is getting targets now. And this is a Lions team that is really good versus the run, so they're going to have to throw. Now, it's going to be a tough battle. I would rather take the points and take them straight up. I just think it's going to be closer. I think they're going to be able to throw the ball on the Lions, who really struggle with slot wide receivers. Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are in the slot a lot, over 30% each. And I think they're both going to have good days. The issue is going to be, can they stop Jahmyr Gibbs, who is just the best running back in football right now? Like, number one in breakaway run rate, which that's no surprise, right? Like, I think it's 15 yards or more on almost 17% of his carries. But what shocked me is the stuffed run rate is the lowest in the NFL. Did not have that on my bingo card. So he's not only explosive, he's also somebody you can't just stop, like my guy Bijan in Atlanta, who once he gets hit, he goes down. Gibbs actually can push the pile forward, break a tackle. But I'm excited about this game because I'm with you. I'm pulling for the Lions so hard because of Chris Robin and Dave. Like, really good people are Lions fans that I consider friends in my life. And there's nothing other than a Falcons championship that I would, love more than the Lions to win a title. But they are the Lions, just like we're the Falcons. And it's like eventually that
you just feel like something's gonna go bad.
I'm very worried about it, and I'm also worried about golf, like being Cinderella, and when is the clock going to strike midnight with him? Because we've seen him, we saw it earlier this year, right, with that 5-pick game. But this is a huge game. They can not wrap up the division, but put themselves in very good standing because their NFC Central record would be pretty amazing. They'd have one game left with the Vikings, where at that point, if they win it, they basically win the division unless of an implode. And they have a lot of easy games left. So I'm excited. This is, in my opinion, the best game on the slate. I know a lot of people like the night game as well, but I think the Bears are actually a pretty good team. That Hail Mary is costing them right now for being a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm that Hail Mary put that set them back, man. That was a gut-wrenching loss, but yeah, so moving over to the second game of the day. This one,
nap time.
Yeah. Go take your walk. Dallas and the Giants. We got two backup quarterbacks. Now technically a third string quarterback in Drew Lock. They were trying to play DeVito over him, and he got hurt now. So this game is an absolute mess. I guess you can like CeeDee Lamb and some of these guys on offense. Like, I feel like they're gonna get something, but the ceiling on all of these offensive players because of the quarterback play is just so much lower than it was. I mean, Dak wasn't awesome this year, but man, way better than what they're getting right now. So, any quick thoughts on this one?
Just that I agree with you overall on all that, but for DraftKings, I think there is a lot of value and a lot of names in this game. Drew Lock, I know he's technically the third string. He is an upgrade for like the Tyrone Tracy, the Malik Neighbors. Like, I actually originally was playing Lamb in most of my DK Cash lineups, but I'm going to pivot to Neighbors now that you had the change at QB. We've seen what Neighbors does when he's hyper targeted. Almost all of his targets are, I think half of them came in the short time that Locke played last week when DeVito was out. The issue is going to be, does Locke hold on the ball? Because he takes a lot of sacks historically. That's my only real concern. The other guy, again, Tyrone Tracy in space is amazing. The Cowboys tackling in space are pitiful. If the Giants do a good job of getting him in space where he can make guys miss tackles, he could have a huge game. And then on the other side, I do like Dowdle and Lamb, obviously. Cooper Rush has been okay the last two games. And then
First
the
game
big
wasn't
thing.
so pretty, but
No, but that's the Eagles
Lamb did
defense
get
right
blinded by the
now.
light, man. So
The
it
Eagles
is
D is
what it
pretty
is.
good though, too. You know what I mean? And the Giants early in the season were wreaking havoc up front. They're not doing that as much lately.
They traded a couple guys, right? Didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, they've pretty much put on the season, and rightfully so. And that's my biggest concern with this is it's two teams that really what is it? The Ben Folds 5 song, The Battle of Who Could Care Less. They're both, I think, at this point, playing for a draft position because the Giants did this last year where they beat Washington and the Patriots, and it literally cost them getting Drake May or Jayden Daniels.
I remember. I laughed pretty hard.
Including my boy Joe Matz, who's a huge Giants fan, would riot if they do that again, say by, winning some of these meaningless games, particularly against teams that like the loss to Carolina. Joe exhaled after it because he's like, thank God,
we got our fun hashtag, and this isn't directed at you, Keith, but Keith Lott. Hashtag Suck at Keith to the good old Giants fan, always finding a way to make us laugh. So yeah, man. Yeah, this game's gonna be so boring. I'm just not really interested in it, but it's still football, man. I'll still catch it. But the nightcap,
this is the time to do it, right? This is the time you can watch a 12 game, do some stuff with the family, from 4 to 7, 8, and then cuddle up by the fire and watch these guys freeze their ass off for the night game.
Yeah, and that night game is I mean, interesting, but also man, we don't know which Dolphins team shows up sometimes. We also don't know which Green Bay team shows up sometimes. It is sort of like last week, the Dolphins looked unstoppable, right? Granted, it was the Patriots, but dude, that was the Dolphins we were expecting to get all along, right? And we just have not gotten it. And, Waddle showed up. The Packers, though, man, and I want to get your take on this because I don't know, I can't touch the Green Bay receivers anymore.
No,
in fantasy, you don't know which one is going to get the ball, and none of them are getting enough volume anyway. But you kind of on the same boat with me on that one.
100%. Especially in DFS, if I had Jayden Reed, depending on my roster, it'd probably be hard to sit him in a fantasy matchup week in and week out.
Though. He's gotten
he's not
4 targets the last 5 weeks.
Again, it's gross, but I'm talking about wide receiver 3. What do you have? I mean, this is going to be a game where Josh Jacobs is going to get the rock a ton. I'm fascinated to see how Miami reacts with Tua and just the Dolphins record in general below freezing, which, by the way, it's going to be 26 degrees when this game kicks off. And the Packers, recent games when they are winning, the run to pass split is 61 to 39%. It's 50-50 basically in their 3 losses this year. What do you think? I would, think that LaFleur is a good coach. He understands that and knows that we got Josh Jacobs for this reason to pound the rock. And I think in this weather, Jacobs has a chance to just go bananas. The question is, can the Dolphins backfield, reciprocate that? Because they got talented backs, obviously, well. And then which of the 2 QBs makes more plays? Because Tua has a horrible history in cold weather. And let's be honest, Jordan Love is either really good or really bad. He can throw 3-4 touchdowns. He can also throw 2-3 interceptions with the quickness. And in a close game, that will cost you sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, man. So we got some Turkey Day football for everybody to, kind of digest here. Got the little play on words on purpose. So enjoy that one. All right. Couple quick notes here. Daniel Jones signing with Minnesota. I think it's a perfect fit, man. I don't know about you. Backup role, doesn't need to do much else, right? And look, Minnesota doesn't really have a backup that I think they can trust. So this was a great fit for them, in my opinion. So
insurance is huge in the NFL. 47 different QBs have started a game this season. We've seen teams like the Rams, with the Stafford situation a few years ago as he's out, and it was Webb. I don't even remember the guys that they had going in. It was so bad. We've seen teams that basically sinks their season. And unlike college with Florida State last year, like they can't just kick you out of the playoffs if you earn your way in if your QB's hurt. So, and the Vikings, I mean, let's be honest, like they have a legit chance to win the NFC. I really do believe that. I've been doubting them most of the season, but they continue, like the game in Chicago Sunday, to prove me, like now with Hawkinson and Jefferson, when Aaron Jones is running the ball, they have a good, like to me, one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. When you have an offensive coordinator, it's great at drawing plays, the best, in my opinion, defensive coordinator in football. This is a perfect decision. This means they at least have a chance if the worst case scenario, Sam Darnold got hurt and is going to either be out for the season or miss a playoff game or two.
Yeah, I think this is the type of offense that Daniel Jones, like they'll find a way to make it work with him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, they've done it with less, in my opinion. I always, we like to make fun of Danny Dimes on this show, so hashtag Suck a Keith, right? But he's still like an above average quarterback. We've seen him do it, right? So
especially for small,
Tyler, I see your question.
Sample.
We're actually going to get to that topic. So if you just hang on, man, I promise you we will get to that. It's on our sheet. Just a couple things before it. Yeah. So Danny Dimes, not a whole lot to for fantasy, but just some interesting news. We do have a couple running back injuries. So Monday night, J.K. Dobbins goes out with a sprained knee. Dude, I didn't even really realize it, but like somebody was like, dude, J.K. Dobbins is healthy all year, having a career year, breaking out, right? Plays against the Ravens and gets hurt. All those years he played for the Ravens got hurt. He's like, if I'm J.K. Dobbins and I ever see the Ravens on the field, I am making up something to never be on the same field with that team. Because it's awful. It's just funny. I know it's totally coincidence, but just bad. But so we don't really know how long he's out yet, so there's really not a lot we can say there. But what's your confidence level in guys like Gus Edwards and
Haskins?
And is it Haskins or are they that put Vidal?
I think
Vidal.
Like I actually think it's Haskins that you gotta watch out for, because Gus 3.3 yards per carry. He's been a disaster this year, and really, what was a signing that I loved. Like it made sense to me. I was somebody who was really high on the Chargers being much better offensively. With Harbaugh and the addition of Ladd, etc. But it could be Vidal. I don't know. To me, Harbaugh is very weird about the running backs that he gives touches to. He has a connection with Haskins. He coached him, obviously, at Michigan. And I think that if you're talking about every down, like the lead back in the interim, if Edwards is ineffective and they make a change, I do think it'll be Haskins that gets the first chance up. He also could end up getting goal line work, which he's been stealing anyway. Like he'll end up having like 3 carries in a game, and 2 of them will be near the goal line. So I think it's great, though, if you're somebody that owns Herbert or the pass catchers, because the Chargers are already starting to throw at a very high rate. They're one of the top teams passing on first down since their bye. That's only going to increase out of necessity. And also, I think Herbert's going to use his legs a lot more, which for his fantasy value is only going to raise it the rest of the way, because he can run. I think people kind of forgot that until here recently.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I really think because we saw it earlier in the season, right? Like I think they're going to just lean on one running back, in my opinion. And at this point, it's going to be Gus Edwards.
He'll get first shot for sure.
Yeah. Next topic, and Tyler, I wasn't ignoring you, I promise. I know you threw 3 questions out there in the chat, but we had it on our sheet, and it was top of the list here, so we were getting to it. Worry level on Breece Hall, and confidence level in Braylon Allen.
I mean, to be honest, I don't want anything to do with this Jets offense moving forward. I mean, obviously, if you have Breece Hall, I would be very concerned if Braylon Allen is out there. I would rush to go get him. But I just think that this team is free falling. I mean, and just like disarray, the punishment for taking on Aaron Rodgers and the clown show that he's been really the last couple of years. We see Green Bay, how, much better things have gotten since he left there. And it took less than a year. He has a lower winning percentage than, Zach Wilson. Yikes. Like, that's pretty bad. It's a mess. I mean, Breece is, incredible. And Allen has proved he's a good backup running back. I just worry that their offense is free falling. And, overall, unless I'm in desperation at running back where I don't have, any, or I have some injuries and stuff, I would not, obviously hesitate picking up Allen. If you have Hall, you have to. But, like, what point would it not be for them just to sit Hall if they're concerned about any injuries, right? Like, why would you want to get him injured on a season that you are officially punting on? You've already fired your coach and your general manager.
Yeah, it sounds like Tyler's sitting over here. He's worried about, like, I guess one of his backups might be Pacheco, and so he could throw him in there. We know Breece. It sounds almost unlikely that Breece is going to play at this point. Right. Really, is trending that direction. So, I think I still lean Pacheco in that case. Like, again, I'm kind of with you, man. Like, Allen's okay, and I guess the only thing you can go for Allen is the workload is going to him, right?
Right.
But that would be the only thing. But otherwise, man, and like, I would have to crunch the numbers again. Right now, my rankings that I put out so far this week, I will be updating them big time for the site tomorrow morning. Right now, they still have Hall in because we don't know if he's out, and so I've just got to do it as if he's in. The second he's ruled out, though, everything changes, and I don't know what that looks like if he's out and Allen is in. So it's hard to really answer that question. You're just gonna have to, like, check back on that, man. And thankfully, none of these guys play tomorrow, so you don't have to really worry about it. So, although who plays the Friday game?
It's the Chiefs. Unfortunately,
okay.
For Tyler.
All right. Hopefully we'll know by Friday afternoon, right? So,
Seahawks have been much better versus the run too since Murphy has gotten healthy. Like, and that defense is just coming on in general, which is why they hired the Ravens defensive coordinator and arguably the best defensive coordinator in football at the time. It's not easy to run on the Seahawks.
Thank you.
Here lately.
Don't forget to leave a like, y'all. Love it. We do have a couple questions, then we'll get into our normal Q&A. I do not have our producer in the sky, Mike LaPlante, so it will be me asking the questions. We'll just go back and forth to see who starts. But got a question here. First off, Angelo, I added Fele for the heck of it. Yeah, I mean, I did. Why not? Mm-hmm. He's been cooking lately.
Clear number 2 in that offense now, at least in the pass catching. Yeah,
I decide between Reed and Addison half PPR. Addison's getting going, man. This is one where, like, projections, because of the role he's supposed to play in the offense, Jayden Reed, are always higher than I like. And so I kind of let the projections do a little more of the talking. My gut says go Addison, but I don't think I could pull that trigger.
This is a situation for me that's what I always ask people. Do you think that you just need a good floor to win your matchup? And if so, I would go with Reed. I absolutely feel more comfortable. If you think you're going to need a big game from one of these guys to end up winning your matchup this week, I would go with Addison.
I will say, dude, the Dolphins secondary is legit good, man. Like,
their Dolphins defense all of a sudden has been legit good. Like, over the last, if you look like 3-4 since Tua's came back, and their offense has been much better. All the defensive metrics I think they're a lot like Tennessee, that when their offense is good, like, that's a good defense. They're just on the field so much, it makes the numbers look worse when, you have, like, the schmucks that Miami had starting at QB earlier this year.
Wrong. Chad, stop it. There's no 75-point Giants-Cowboys game tomorrow.
Well, the last time we had two backups in that matchup on Thanksgiving, somebody shared it the other day. It was actually Tony Romo making his first for the Cowboys, or one of them, and then a guy for the Raiders I'd never heard of, and there was like 65 or 70 points scored in that game. So,
dude, I will say Thanksgiving games are the most bizarre games ever.
Yeah,
like we get random dudes to score 3 touchdowns every single year, it feels like. And you're like, it just blows up the DFS slate, blows up lineups. You know, some random dude, you know, has him in your league, and you just happen to be playing him, of course, because that's what always happens. But question here from Domo. I was offered Jonathan Taylor, GP. Why am I not?
That's what I was immediately going, who is GP?
Can you clarify who GP is? I'm blanking on who a GP would be.
George Pickens,
Pickens? Yeah, it must be George Pickens. Yeah, George Pickens and Evan Ingram for Bucky Irving, Najee, and MHJ. So I like Pickens over MHJ. I like Taylor over Najee, and I like, dude, honestly, crazy to say, I like Bucky almost the best. His rest of the season schedule is crazy good. Najee's is bad, actually.
Bucks have an unbelievable schedule the rest of the way, just in general. Yeah. It's like cupcake
Najee's rest of the season schedule is pretty bad.
Losing a lot of the snaps to Jaylen Warren, too. There may be a little bit of a shift in that.
Dude, it's kind of an even trade. Like, if you need a tight end desperately, I'm okay with it. If you don't need the tight end, I'd probably keep who you have.
The only issue for me is that, like, I would try to make some.
Oh, my current tight end is Laporta. Sorry, we receivers. I didn't read the whole question.
I was going to say Evan Ingram with Lawrence is a different tight end, and he will be like with Kirk out the rest of the year. Like, he's going to be peppered.
Lawrence is practicing, looking like he's going to be. He's going to be back. So
like, he could end up being. I mean, again, this guy was, I think, 3rd in receptions last year of all pass catchers, not just wide receivers. Gabe Davis is out currently. Kirk's done for the year. Like, from that standpoint and what you're trying to do, I'm okay with it. I'm with you. I hate letting.
I do it actually because I like Pickens more than Harrison. Jonathan Taylor should be much better, but I mean, it's just kind of hit or miss sometimes with Richardson in there. But like, you're not leaning on him with Etienne and Tracy there. So
yep, I agree.
But like, he should be fine. I don't think Bucky Irving's going to be that much better than him.
Right. Yep.
So I like it. I like that trade. Go ahead and I'd pull the trigger on that. Man, we got a bunch here all of a sudden. Jeez, where did y'all come from? Yeah, let's see here. All right. From Ito OBJ, Gus Edwards at Atlanta, Taysom Hill versus the Rams, Jalen Waddle at Green Bay, Adunze at Detroit, full PPR start 1.
I'm Hill. Like, I can't sit him right now.
I was going to say, am I crazy?
No, you're not. Like, he's involved now in the passing game, which was the big difference. Last 4 games, 31 targets, 16 reception, and he's still getting all the rush attempts, 20 rush attempts the last 4. The big thing is multiple red zone touches, whether it be a passing target or, rush inside the 20 in every game since he's came back from injury. And the Rams, in case you missed it, they had a hard time tackling a big physical fast back in Saquon Barkley. And I'm not like comparing, Taysom Hill to Barkley, but Hill's another guy that can bust a big run, because if you don't tackle him initially, once he gets ahead of steam, like he can be gone. I love Taysom Hill.
My Kamara shares, dude.
Yep.
Crushing.
He's the worst for fantasy. He's like the guy that he shouldn't be able to. Well, I guess actually lately he's justified playing tight end. My frustration with his tight end was when they used him just as basically a running back, and they were able to play him as a tight end. But he's going to swing a ton of fantasy playoff leagues, and I'm pissed because in Scott Fishbowl I had him, and when he got hurt, I dropped him. And obviously was not able to get him back. And like, I have a really good team in Scott Fishbowl. If I had Taysom Hill, I would feel very good about like having a chance to really win this thing. He's going to wreck a lot of teams. Jalen Waddle in 26 degrees weather, pass. Roma Dunze is interesting versus Detroit. I don't want any Gus Edwards. The Falcons are so good versus the run and awful versus the pass. So I think Herbert's going to have a monster day. But unless Gus Edwards scores like 2 touchdowns, I don't see him scoring more than 15 points. He doesn't catch passes either.
Yeah, and I'm not trusting Waddle yet. I know it's one big game, but no thanks. Moving on here.
You son of a bitch.
No pits. Jeez, get out of here. McBride or Jonnu. I got to go back to McBride. I can't sit I like Jonnu Smith, but not for McBride.
He's been tight end 1. Don't get me wrong. Jonnu Smith has been for the last month, but I can't sit Trey McBride for anyone. Like, to me, unless it's Brock Bowers, there's not a tight end that I can sit for Trey McBride.
Yeah. Do I risk waiting to see if Devonta Smith plays, or do I just start Tracy tomorrow? The only pivot I have if Smith doesn't play would be Brian Robinson, who also might not play. I would just start Tracy.
Yeah,
I think
it's a good matchup. Cowboys.
I would have Tracy over Smith anyway. I think.
I agree.
So.
I think Tracy has a great opportunity tomorrow. Again, especially with Locke, who can actually throw. Where I don't think that the Cowboys will be able to just load the box like I originally thought. With DeVito, Locke actually can push the ball a little bit down the field. So I like Tracy a lot. By the way, for DraftKings tomorrow at his price, I think he's like 5,800.
Yeah. All right, let's actually get into our real start sit questions for the week. So how we do this, and I am the lone guy here doing all of this right now. So I'm going to try my best to get the takers, get the questions in, move the slides. It's not going to go well. Mike LaPointe, I hate you for missing this show. All right, first question up. And Keith, we're going to start with you here. We got Mr. Bo Nix versus Cleveland or CJ Stroud versus the Jaguars.
So I'm somebody who has been pumping Bo Nix for a while, like on the waiver wire show that I'm a part of. I've been playing him a ton in DraftKings. You see him in a lot of my articles and stuff, and talked about on me and Joe's DFS show. But in this situation, I can't sit CJ Stroud. It's funny how everybody's crapping on him, but he's 4th in passing yards this year. So he's still throwing the ball, top 5 level in the NFL. And he is facing a Jacksonville defense that allows, they're 31st in pass yards allowed. They're 30th in rushing yards allowed to QB, which he will sometimes sneak a run. But the big thing, they play man 40% of the time. It's the second most in the NFL. And boy, are Stroud splits different zone versus man. His completion percentage, 55% versus zone. That ranks 37th among QBs, 68.1 versus man. That's second. Passer rating, 37th versus zone. He's 9th versus man. Accuracy rating, 33rd versus zone, 4th versus man. And then the other really big thing is Nico Collins eats versus man defense. So you're going to have, he does, but I mean, he's particularly it's unbelievable. The fantasy points per target versus man this year. I think it's like over 3.5 for the season. I know he's missed some games, but I just can't sit Stroud. And also I know Cleveland's pass defense has been ugly and stuff, but I just think that's going to be a rock fight. Like we kind of saw, they're getting back. The Browns are too. They're not just going to throw it 55 times. They're trying to establish run. Ford's been involved, etc. I like Nix, but not that much. His numbers too, when pressured, completely different than they are when he has a clean pocket. And I think Myles Garrett will have something to do with him having too many clean pockets on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, you said a whole lot of stats there that make a whole lot of sense. I'm going to simplify it a little bit. It's the Jags. You're going CJ Stroud. You're picking on the Jaguars, man. When it's this when it's this much of a toss up between the two quarterbacks,
very fair.
You go with the one playing the Jags.
Just very fair.
Be easy. I'm gonna cut that one short real quick. So
that's great.
All right, next up here we got Jordan Love versus the Dolphins. We talked about him. Or the flip side, we got Tua versus the Packers. I'll start with this one. We'll try to flip-flop here as much as possible. I I do have this one being Jordan Love. They are at home. You're right, man. It's gonna be cold. Dolphins don't play good in cold weather. Tua doesn't play good in cold weather. They're coming off the big game against New England. I need to see it again before I really believe that offense is going to be cooking quite like that again. Tua just hasn't really been the Tua that we're used to, right? Since the injuries, even earlier in the season, it wasn't really working. They do rely on this run game a lot. Etienne, when they get down close, it's all him. They've, for some reason, really phased out Mostert, which is still a little baffling to me because he's just so good. He's a little bit more of a, he can this a little bit more of a bruiser than Etienne. So when they get in close, I feel like he was a really good inside the 5 type of back. But I still think that they want this. They want to run the ball, right? They want to protect Tua, and yeah, I'm just gonna go with the home quarterback here, and Jordan Love gonna get it done.
Yeah,
I don't love either one, honestly.
That was how I was exactly going to start this. Is I wouldn't be wanting to roll with either of these guys this week in a really important matchup. It's going to be 26 degrees when this game starts with 10-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to be so freaking cold.
Okay, answer me this, because I've got this question in King's Classic: Jordan Love or Matt Stafford?
Oh, Stafford by a mile for me.
All right.
Since Puka and them have came, back, Stafford all of a sudden has been excellent. They've really phased out the amount of usage for Kyren Williams since both Cup.
I'm very aware. My other that team that has Kamara, I'm talking to you about.
Right.
The other running back is Kyren Williams. I've been sinking like a rock for the last 3 weeks. It's awesome. I love it. Nobody cares about my team.
It can always turn around. I do think that Stafford. Look, Love could throw 3-4 touchdowns, but again, if they get a lead, which again the Dolphins have been so bad in these cold weather situations, 61 to 39% run pass split their last 3 wins. I think LaFleur's figured out we got Josh Jacobs for a reason. We're going to pound them when we get up. And I expect if they get a lead early, you're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs. And that's going to mean he needs to throw 3 touchdowns, I think, to have a big game. Because it wouldn't surprise me if he throws for less than 250 yards.
Yeah. All right. I think we answered the question. You're on Jordan Love. Love
I would lean Love, though. Yeah, I do too.
All right. Sorry. Trying to be a producer and talk at the same time. It's not easy.
No, you're good.
Good. All right, so we're over to the running backs here. So it's going to be start 2, sit 1.
Oh,
Keith, we will go with you first here. So we've got James Conner going against the Minnesota Vikings, Tony Pollard at Washington, and right, or the ticker is.
Yeah, it's Pollard versus Washington. You're right. And Aaron Jones versus.
Then there's a random verse. I gotta edit this. There's a random verse Dallas in there that threw me off. Aaron Jones versus Arizona. Start 2, sit 1. Go.
So I did not know it was start 2, but I can do this easily. So the clear one is Tony Pollard. To me, it's not even close. Especially if Spears is out. If Spears is out, Pollard's one of the best plays this week. He averages 90% of the snaps when Spears misses. Among running backs, Pollard 12th in expected fantasy points, 7th in breakaway run rate, carries, snap share, rushing yards. Big thing for me is he's involved in the passing game. So if they get down, he's 9th in reception, 8th in route runs, 4th in target share. Washington defense has had some serious issues with running backs as of late. Just that, their defense is having issues in general. I would then lean Aaron Jones over James Conner. Minnesota is just another one of these teams, very good versus the run, but they can give up passing yards. Arizona's kind of the inverse, where it's easier to run on them than it is to throw on them. And Minnesota has seemed to similar to what I was saying about a lot of these teams, they're leaning on the run. Like with the Packers, they are leaning into Aaron Jones, letting him start it off, and then you play action to Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, etc. I love James Conner, but like last week was kind of a wake-up call because I believe Seattle's run defense is not as good overall as Minnesota, and they completely shut down Conner. Benson's eating into snaps. So I would go Pollard first and then Aaron Jones second.
Yeah, I'm the same too. I lean Jones first, then Pollard second. But yeah, it's sit James Conner. I want nothing to do against that Minnesota defense. And I've been talking about it for a few weeks. I got absolutely hammered on Reddit when I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. A trend that I'm noticing that is becoming very real is Trey Benson is becoming more and more involved in this offense. Whether you like it or not, people, I'm sorry it's happening. He's not going to take over. I'm not saying that. But look, the only argument people had against me was, oh, those were 2 blowout games. Trey Benson only got touches in like the second, third, and fourth quarter. All right, you had points. You were right. But look, what team goes away from their bell cow back when they're only up 1 score?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then last week they were not ahead, and they still used Benson. In fact, they used him more. I don't know why they used him more. He was actually more effective. But look, I still think it's James Conner's backfield overall, and he's the one you're going to lean on. But that does take away from my confidence level in James Conner, especially when you're talking about guys like this. So go with Pollard.
Joe Matt gave this stat 2 weeks ago. The second the Cardinals are up or down 8 points, it becomes around like a 68-32% split between Benson and Conner. When they are within 7 points in either direction,
like all Conner.
It's all Conner. And
it is.
I guess you could say it's smart, what they're doing, but it is kind of shocking that it's so, either all or nothing. And it's like 8 points for whatever reason. That's when it changes.
I noticed that too. Yeah, I noticed that too. When it's one, it's still a 1-score game, so it still counts. But it is weird that like they're keeping them involved, but they have to be in the lead at least, or I guess in this case now still behind. But yeah, it's pretty strange to watch. It's something I've been keeping an eye on, and like I started immediately stashing Benson shares immediately. There's another factor that James Conner has not been healthy a full season, ever. So, do we really think he's going to do it this year? I mean, we're getting to fantasy playoffs time. Like, I want to be the guy who has Benson now and doesn't have to pay, 90% of my whatever's left of my fab to go get him, and then probably still not get him because I guarantee somebody didn't spend anything, so they've got way more than me. So yeah. All right, so we're on the same page there. We'll go to the next one here, and it is going to be Nick Chubb, who had a bit of a season breakout game for him last week in the Snow Globe game. Rico Dowdle or Travis Etienne. Let's see here. Let me look at my rankings here. So I've got Dowdle 1 going against the Giants. It's a good matchup, man. I know I'm not like super excited about this game, but like there will be points scored. People will have the ball. There's going to be fantasy points. So Dowdle is kind of in that like low end RB2 range for me. So he's playable. I'm gonna go Nick Chubb against who are they playing here? It's on the screen.
Broncos.
Let's scroll by. I think it's the Broncos. Like I get it, tough matchup, but have we seen anything from Travis Etienne that we enjoy at all this season?
Nothing.
It's been abysmal, man. At least Nick Chubb, it seems like he's going to be able to run the rock when they give him the opportunity, right? That's been the problem. Is like, do they really trust him enough to play him enough? I mean, like DVOA has Denver as the 4th best run defense, so there's that. I get it. Houston is However, though, Houston is the second. So that's who Jacksonville gets. So yeah, I could see Houston getting up pretty big against Jacksonville and pretty big quick, which, even though Etienne can catch the ball, will still phase him out, in my opinion. So they'll use Ingram, they'll use Brian Thomas Jr., they'll use all these guys down the field. Etienne isn't going to be able to do too much. So give me Dowdle, and then I'll reluctantly say Nick Chubb in this one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say that if for some reason you had to start two of these backs, I would try to find a wide receiver off of waivers that you could start, like say in the flex, for instance, if that's why you're starting them over them, or even check for running backs on the waiver wire, because
we'll get McNichols.
Yeah, exactly.
If Braylon Allen's hanging out there, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
That's a tough
rough,
one. But
man.
McNichols would be interesting, though. I think he could do some damage. He's been good when he's gotten the chance.
He's been great. 4.9 yards.
4.9 and 4 touchdowns, dude. Yeah, we talked about him on the waiver show on Monday night. Me and Corey.
Dowdle, the big thing is Giants give up a lot of receptions to running backs, almost 5 per game. He's had 23 targets, 18 receptions in his last 5. So I think that's where his floor is safe, particularly in PPR leagues. And they're so bad versus the run. Maybe this is the week that he could, actually bust out. Because in case you forgot, Chuba Hubbard just ran all over these Giants. Bucky Irvin just ran all over these Giants. Like you can get after him on the ground as well right now.
Yeah. All right. Let's move over to some wide receivers. And we've got Davante Adams versus Seattle, Jameson Williams versus Chicago, or Marvin Harrison at Minnesota. This is another start 2, sit 1 action here. Keith.
The clear guy for me is Adams. Seahawks run the most man out of these 3 defenses. All 3 of these wide receivers, unfortunately, feast versus man. None of them are facing a defense that runs it like at a crazy high rate. Seahawks 32%, Vikings and Bears 18 and 21% of the time. Adams target rate versus man 32%. Haul out, you might think that means more Rodgers, more passing in general, which is obviously good for Adams. Outside of that, I think I would probably lean Harrison Jr. I know it's tough to stop, to sit Jameson Williams because he's so explosive, but it's the same thing as it is with Laporta. There's very few constants in the Lions offense. It's the 2 backs and St. Brown, and then it's everybody else fighting for the scraps, where at least Harrison Jr. is really just fighting James Conner, and Trey McBride's the only guy in the passing game. They have phased out Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch over the last month. It's kind of insane how few those guys are involved in the passing game. It's literally McBride or Harrison on a majority of passes that aren't to running backs. So Adams is a clear-cut one for me, and then I would go Harrison over Williams. But I will say, if you're looking for a boom play, I would go with the safe play Adams and then play Williams.
I agree. As much as I do not like this Jets offense, you're not sitting Adams over either one of these 2. The volume is there. It's just not going to be pretty in certain cases. I'm right there with you, man. Williams it's a tough matchup for both of these guys. Williams is the boom play, right? We're seeing at least 5-6 targets since he's returned from the suspension each game, which is an increase from what he was getting. I'm pleasantly surprised there with that. But that's not enough to rely on every week. You're getting 3-4 catches every week then, probably at most. He's got to break one, which he does a lot. But
Bears don't give up big plays is the other issue. They just don't give up big plays in the passing game, especially the wide receivers. They will occasionally tight ends, but
yeah. And then Harrison has been so when I beat my head against the wall with my number 1 pick in Dynasty and my rookie draft. It wasn't single QB, but just I thought I struck gold, man. It's been hit or miss, just like this entire Cardinals offense. It feels like. Yeah, I listen to these broadcasts and they're like, "Oh, this is the best that Kyler Murray has ever looked," and blah blah blah. I'm like, the hell are you all watching? Because he looks like garbage in certain games, man. Like
he's saying, "Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining."
Can't connect with anybody.
That's what it feels like. They are not explosive, and I'm worried too about Kyler rest of the season because historically, he actually starts to struggle down the stretch, and his fantasy numbers, all that goes down. And I think part of it is he's small and he just takes a beating throughout the season, and it's not a surprise he would get worn down. But the one bright spot for Harrison is his man numbers are outrageous. Like he's just got to get better versus the zone, or Kyler does. It's one or two. I couldn't tell you who is, more at the root of that, but he's so good versus man right now. It's just he's got to get a little better versus zone defenses.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like we are on the same page there. Mike's probably cursing at us right now because he hates
for not fighting enough.
He hates it when it's the clean sweep, but gotta pick better questions, Mike. We got some comments here. My bad, guys. Where did I leave off? Oh, this one's been a while. I apologize. Todd, Jayden Daniels versus the Titans or Jordan Love versus Miami? Hey, Daniels. I'm not sitting Daniels, man.
Rushing upside.
Yeah, rushing upside is just enormous. I know it hasn't been quite the same, but this past week, man, you saw it. He looked better. Finally looked better after a few games of just kind of looking slow and not himself. Something clicked again. So I'm back in for sure. Steve, need 2 wide receivers and a flex. Hopkins, DJ Moore, QJ, and Pacheco. I'll go. I'm probably sitting QJ. I'll see what Pacheco's got. It's tough, man.
I know. I can't sit QJ. I know it was disgusting last week, but Falcons run zone at the highest rate in the NFL, and that's what he is much better against. And again, I think with Gus Edwards, you're going to see more passing attempts than normal from the Chargers. We've had real difficult. Now he's got to catch the ball, which is obviously an issue, but we've had real issues with these big physical wide receivers after the catch all year. I really like him. I would probably sit either Hopkins or Pacheco, and I probably would sit Hopkins. I think they're going to want to get Pacheco involved. I think he's such an important part to that offense. He's not going to get a huge workload, but I think you'll see he will get some important touches. I just think it's one of those deals where if they get in the red zone, they're going to give it to him. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to give him a chance to punch in that touchdown. Crowd team will be jacked. So that's who I would go with.
I've got some interesting notes to talk about in our observations part of the show about the Kansas City passing attack and just kind of the usage that we're seeing. And it's just not what we're expecting to see. So I can be on board with that. The more I looked at it, actually, I do have Hopkins and then QJ as kind of the one. So it's DJ Moore. To me, it's still Hopkins, but it is close between Hopkins and QJ. But I personally go, I will take Hopkins. And I mean, Mahomes is looking good again, man. As much as we were trashing him early on, he's finally clicking. So, let's see here. George, play 101. The guys, I'm 9-3, first place, non-PPR. Someone offered me CMC and Reed for Gibbs and Hopkins. So
no way. I am not letting you go of Jamar Gibbs for anybody in Barkley, basically, and Henry. I don't
trust CMC over.
And if they shut down Purdy, good luck. Because like CMC, I think actually needs Purdy now more than Purdy needs CMC on a week-to-week basis to be fantasy relevant. Just because the way CMC's looked, he needs the defense not to be zoned in on him.
Yeah, and I think the report today is that Brock Purdy threw one pass and then watched. So it's not looking good, man.
Niners are season from hell team for sure.
Got a tough one. Justice Hill, who needs good fortune to get the big game, but hits for flex value, or Kamani Vidal. I'll lean on Justice Hill, man.
I would too.
Can't trust it. Like we saw Vidal supposed to get a chance earlier in the year, and it never happened. So I don't know why we would.
I think Justin Hill actually has more upside too, right? Like
at least we know he has a role.
He's proven like when he gets opportunities, he can make something happen, like he did Monday night. And I'm fascinated by this Ravens-Eagles game just in general, which I think they're going to have a hard time running the ball and moving the ball the way they have. That's usually when Justice Hill is more in play because they kind of need him, pass catching, et cetera, to just kind of help get the offense going.
Yeah. This is a really good one. CMC and Kyron or Chase Brown and Aaron Jones.
Wow.
I'm still going CMC and Kyron on this one, but boy, that's a lot closer than it should be.
It's ridiculously close because, let's be honest. Aaron Jones actually catches more passes than Kyron Williams, but I still think that if the Rams can get it going, like it's just been kind of bad luck that his usage has been down. They've been down in a lot of these games, which when they're up, you will see Kyron still continue to get.
And they weren't using him in the red zone. Like when they got down close, they were throwing it to freaking Robinson in the back of the end zone. It's like, stop it. Get this ball to you were asked to be on the show if you had paid attention to Discord, Chris, but that's cool. You're going to call me out. I'm going to call you out. Dion, welcome, man, from Facebook. We see you here a lot. Need 2 flexes out of these players. Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Tyrone, Tracy, Rashad White, Drake London. Oh, my goodness. This is ridiculous. London
and Bucky for me. Oh, no, actually, I take that back. I would probably go with Taylor and Bucky this week. I do like Taylor's matchup this week. And, again, Bucky Irvin just licking his chops versus Carolina if he gets the snap share and opportunities that he did last week versus the Giants.
Yeah, take that back. I agree with you. I'm looking
Chargers
at it now.
defense is really good, man. Like, really good. I respect the Chargers defense, and I think they're going to try to take away one. That's what I would do.
It looks so hot this past week.
Lamar is, to me,
Lamar the never beast. I get it.
Especially when he has Derrick Henry back there as well. It's like not fair, man.
Dude, it's totally not fair. When he signed there, I went, he couldn't have signed in a better place for him to like kind of revive his
there's never been a thunder and lightning with a QB and a running back, so they're on the field at the same time all the time, and that's exactly what they've done. It's just
so we got here pick 3 full PPR, Etienne, Lock, Cook, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving.
I'm sitting Cook just because of Brown's usage rate, right? Like you can't. He's like playing 99% of the snaps or something ridiculous.
It's unreal. It's
the last couple of weeks, so I can't sit him. And I like James Cook, but he actually gets spelled by a couple of different backs at times to where
I
his
can't
own
sit quarterback.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And Bucky Irving, like I can't sit them too. So then it's just Brown or Cook, and I'd rather have the guys on the field all the time.
He brought up the. It's been reference to Kyler Murray sucking in the last third of the season.
The Call of Duty.
He's sunny size is the kind of drop in the new Call of Duty. I kind of forgot about that. That's a good call.
I said that too. That's amazing.
All right, let's move on here. Next receiver combination. We've got Darnell Mooney versus the Chargers, Jakobi Meyers versus Kansas City, and Jayden Reed versus Miami. Am I up on this one? I don't know.
Sure, go ahead if you're ready.
I don't want to be.
Good.
No, we good. I'm reluctantly sitting Mooney in this one. He's coming. He's still technically banged up. I haven't looked at the practice reports yet. Jakobi Meyers is just getting so much volume there. It's really hard to sit him, even against a good Kansas City defense. And Jayden Reed, I mean, he still is the de facto number one there, right? Like, you've got to trust it a little bit over a third-ish option in Darnell Mooney if you're counting Bijan, right? It's London and then Mooney's getting a ton of volume. Don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna go with Meyers and Reed.
Meyers is definitely the number one, which I know people are probably going, really? It's not. We're not ranking the wide receivers. We're ranking for fantasy.
It is in O'Connell now, so it might be a little different.
I just volume to me matters. 7 games, 67 targets over his last 7, 46 receptions.
I hear you.
It's 17 points per game is what's crazy. 17 points more, and it's not like I like Gardner Minshew. It's not a huge drop off. I agree it is. I do slightly like Mooney more than Reed. It's just I'm getting Mooney in a dome in a game that I think there will be more points scored than Reed in 26-degree weather. And I think a game that could end up being, like one of those NFL Films videos where nobody looks too happy to be there. And there'll be a lot of run plays.
Except for the offensive line that goes sleeveless.
Right? Yeah. Screw that. I wouldn't be able to probably walk. I'd have so many layers of undershirts and stuff underneath. I'm Southern boy. I can't handle cold weather.
Not that cold. I'm good. Can't feel my hands at that point. Like, I'm out. All right. Next up here, we got Keenan Allen versus Detroit tomorrow. We got Brian Thomas Jr. versus Houston. And Jordan Addison versus Arizona. Start 2, sit 1.
Allen is a definite huge change since the change to Thomas Brown Go Dogs as the offensive coordinator. 2 games, 23 targets, 13 receptions, 32% of his targets on the season. 9 games have came in the last 2. So they have definitely decided they're going to get him more involved.
Wide receiver 21 the last 2 weeks, by the way.
Wow. I didn't know it was that. I knew
wide receiver 10 for DJ Moore.
Wow. See,
it's been different, man. It's been different.
Well, again, they're just throwing it to all 3. I mean, all 3 of them, I think, have had at least 20 targets in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I didn't say just hasn't scored, so he's still down there at like 43, but it's still like 10 PPR points a game. Like, not bad.
And then Detroit, again, is biggest issue, slot wide receivers, Allen in the slot the most. It's like 33%. And then I like Addison this week. I do, but I can't sit Brian Thomas Jr. versus the Texans where they're going to be down, chucking it, especially if Lawrence is back. If Lawrence is back, we've seen it. Thomas can in one play outscore. Honestly, to be honest, both of these guys potentially, depending on what happens. So I would go Allen and Thomas.
I totally agree. Couldn't have said it better. It's really just with Lawrence looking like he's back. Brian Thomas has got his volume back, which is what we loved him for early on. So those two had a great connection here. Moving over to tight end, we've got Mr. Taysom Hill and Jonnu Smith. I think we pretty much answered this early. Different guy here. Or no, this actually was a question we had early on. So yeah, we already answered it. It's Taysom Hill. I'm not going away from dude, once we all fall in love with him again, he's going to give us a big old 0.
Oh, for sure. It's coming. And I love Jonnu Smith. I've been, pumping him in articles.
Me too.
Like I've been for a month, saying Jonnu. I can't sit like Taysom Hill. It's not fair. He's getting rush carries. And now he's
throwing
being
the ball
involved target-wise. But yeah, it's just I can't do it.
I think they got him involved in special teams. It was like, come on, man. Like, this dude, it's ridiculous.
I will say, if you can play Smith if you can play a tight end at flex, depending on who else you got, I would not hate playing both of these guys.
I don't hate it either, man. It's weird because obviously we were hating on the tight end position earlier on, and now it's like some of these dudes have come around.
Yep.
I saw a tweet, and I forget who it was, and I can't find it anymore either, which pisses me off. But it was really good. It was a picture of. After Taysom Hill scored 37 fantasy points or whatever crazy number it was. And it was like he ran, 5 times for this many yards and a touchdown, caught this many for this many yards and a touchdown, threw the ball this many times, and played this many snaps on special teams. What position do you play? Football. I was like, yeah, that pretty much sums up Taysom Hill. But I can't find it to give credit for
everybody
whoever it
wants
was.
to,
It was genius.
so fantasy football wise, you're playing like I got Taysom Hill in 3 leagues 2 weeks ago. It was awful. Of course, lost all 3 of them. I mean, when a guy scores 45 points, it's like good luck.
I'm so mad at myself because I had him in a league where it's super competitive, and he just was doing nothing, and then got hurt.
Yep.
And then I was like, nah, can't hang on to him. I don't know what he's gonna do.
I told you I did the same thing as Scott Fishbowl, and I can't get over it. Like
Scott Fish, man, I might have hung on to him. At 22 roster spots, I am shocked. You couldn't.
I have so many tight ends though.
Actually,
like,
tight end
my
premium?
strategy. I have,
Not
well,
that
yeah, but I have Trey McBride. I have Jonnu Smith. I have Brock Bowers. Like my whole strategy was tight ends at the start of the season, and I needed depth at wide receiver. I only drafted 4 wide receiver. I drafted Waddle, Jameson Williams.
I didn't draft a lot either.
Terry McLaurin, and there was one Lad, and that's like basically all I've run with. But with buys and stuff, I mean, it worked out. And even with Waddle being an absolute bust, but I just needed help at other positions.
You
so
mean
I
both,
dropped
man.
them,
Sat Waddle
so mad
this past week. 31
so
points.
mad. Yep, I had him on the bench too. I was like, "You son of a bitch!"
I know. So. I saw your tweet. I was like, "Feel your pain. Feel your pain." All right, last question here. We got a flex question here. Tyrone Tracy Jr. or Lad McConkey? Where are you going?
I am the Lad guy. Again, I'm a little bit of a UJ homer, so I'll admit like that's part of it. But I've been saying for a year and a half, like him and Brock were the real deal. They've proved it. I love Tracy this week. Again, Cowboys, they give up 150 rushing yards per game, over 100 yards to running backs. But, I mean, he's just like, since their bye, 7 games, 6 or more targets in 6 of 7, 5 or more receptions in 5 of 7, double-digit points, 4 or 5, 433 receiving yards in his last 5. And the big issue, Falcons dead last in pressure rate. That's what happens when you take Bijan Robinson, when Jalen Carter's sitting there. And Gus Edwards is averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Justin Herbert, I really do believe in it. Like Bo Nix was a prime example. I told everybody 2 weeks ago for DFS, play Bo Nix versus the Falcons because we can't get pressure. And even, rookie QBs can look great when they have time. Justin Herbert is a legit stud. He's going to have time. He's got a great offensive line with those 2 tackles. He's going to pick us apart. And Lad McConkey is so good at actually improvising, kind of like Kelsey and those guys, where he'll find the soft spot in the zones. I think he's going to have a field day. And just, again, the whole Chargers passing game. So I like Lad more than Tracy. It's very close. So I like both of these guys.
I think in half PPR, it's super close. I do lean Lad. In PPR, though, I'm Lad like so much farther away than Tyrone Tracy. In my opinion, just give me that volume there that the Lad's getting in the passing game. That's going to make a huge difference. So, all right. So that's going to be it for our start sit portion of the show here. Next, we're going to jump into our weekly observations. What we do here, we call it weekly observations. It's really whatever, right? Just sort of a free-for-all talking time where we go through something that's caught our eye, a trend we've seen lately, something that's bugging us. If we just want to rant, I don't care. It's here to just kind of talk football at this point. Some of these things, like we get into conversations that I think are phenomenal, like better than some of the more scripted part of the shows. So Keith, we usually do 2 apiece. Your dog's got one.
Nico's fired up, man. He also is upset about the topic. But I'll start with, like, I'm tired of these people taking victory laps, especially against the organizations for, Saquon Barkley, leaves the Giants, and look what he's doing with the Eagles, and Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs with the Pack. You know what? That happens when you go from teams that are bad run organizations with bad quarterbacks and bad offensive lines, and you put these guys behind, really good offensive lines with good QBs. And I'm not knocking what the guys have done, but like, you can't tell me that, like, for the Giants, they got rid of Barkley, who would have not helped them at all because their team's trash. And now they have Tyrone Tracy moving forward, for a lot cheaper and safe. Like, they made the right decision. Did it, work out in a win-loss perspective? Absolutely not.
No, and it wasn't supposed to.
Exactly. Same thing for the Ravens. Like with Derrick Henry, they could have paid Derrick Henry. What good would that have done? And they're moving forward. Yeah. It just, to me, like, this is a stupid exercise people are doing. And also, all these people that are saying 0 RBs over. Also, let's look at the other running backs eating right now, like the Bucky Irvings and stuff. But we're doing just fine, okay? I know there's been a lot of injuries to wide receivers, and that is really what has slanted it more than anything, is either the QB or the actual wide receiver has been banged up for, like, the top wide receivers this year. I'm still going in with the same strategy. Now, I will change to where, like, I'm not going to be so hesitant if they're the clear back like Barkley and Henry were in Baltimore and Philly. Like, I whiffed on that straight up. Like, I did. I was worried about their age, and I just thought, well, I'd rather take Lamb or, like one of these wide receivers over the back. I will reconsider that moving forward. But otherwise, I'm going to stick to the exact same strategy.
Yeah, we've actually had that second comment of yours brought up a few times, but like in the opposite way. Like you're saying, a lot of people are saying 0 RB, or now like robust RB is back, right? Or is but to me, I'm just more interested in seeing how we're gonna, like, we're all gonna go back. The ones who are good at this are gonna go back and evaluate everything. Mm-hmm. Look back at what happened. You brought up the injuries to the receivers. I brought that up. Like, that's been a huge part of it, right? CeeDee Lamb, right? The Cowboys just were not the same. He was coming into camp super late, so he wasn't quite up to speed right away. Dak
He's impressed me, like gutting it through injuries and stuff. Like, I'm actually more impressed with CeeDee Lamb, the football player, seeing him like, go and play for this awful Cowboys team and suit up week after week, banged up, than I was going into the season.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of think there will be a little bit of an overreaction to what happened this year, like we always do, right? We've done it in the past with tight ends. We've done it in the past with quarterbacks.
Tight end. This year, I was like, what is wrong with people? That was my biggest rant all season, was like, why are we taking Sam Laporta as the fourth option?
I had him high. It was close between him and Kelsey, but I still had Kelsey first. That still may not work, but
it's just the mouths to feed was my argue with, again, Laporta. He's a great tight end, but it's like you got Gibbs, who was a huge part second half, Montgomery, St. Brown's a target, freaking monster. And I'm somebody who really believe in Jameson Williams. Like, I still think he's the best wide receiver in that class, and that's going to play out over time, over like Olave and Wilson and all those guys. But
I hope you're right, because I have him on my dynasty team.
I have him everywhere. I love J-Bo, man. It's been disappointing, but when he's getting opportunities, and like, God forbid, once he starts getting,
I'm finally able to start him at least.
Yeah, right. Like with safety.
Yeah. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how the fantasy community and the industry reacts to what happened this year with the running backs and just how good they've been. To your point on like Saquon and Henry, I'm with you, man. I'm so pissed at myself. I liked them and I kept pushing them up. But then it got to a point where it was like, no, like there's a lot of smart people saying, no, you can't go any higher than this, right? Like, this is what it was. It just seemed like it stopped. And I was like, okay.
They both had a lot of miles, which is what really concerned me.
It was
like,
mileage.
Those guys that
Saquon's injury history.
Yep.
And then you add that they both have mobile quarterbacks. And so you had to be worried about how much
about vultures. Yeah.
How many other touchdowns. And we've seen it with Saquon, actually. Saquon has had
he would be having like the best season ever.
Oh, dude. He would be crazy if it weren't for the tush push.
Insane. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of kind of right on that, but also very wrong at the same time. But all right, so my thing here is I kind of teased it a little earlier. I want to talk about this Chiefs usage here in the passing game. I wrote about it in the usage article I put on the site every week. It was one of the teams that I featured this week. So I write a lot of notes on a bunch of teams, and then I feature a few that I think need a little more attention. And the Chiefs passing game has been featured actually the last 2 weeks. So I'll start with the receivers because we had the D-Hop question, and I want to get back to that. How crazy is it to realize that DeAndre Hopkins had he got like a
Amber alert. Sorry.
Yeah,
and I have
like,
both my work and personal cell both going off.
I heard it going. How crazy is it to think that DeAndre Hopkins had actually out of all the pass catchers, including the tight ends, he had the 6th most snaps last game.
Yeah, Juju Watson's out there. Like, what are they doing?
Like, now he ran 21 routes. He had 6 targets, like just about the same as Worthy and Kelsey. So he's being targeted when he's out there, but it's like, and then he had the 2 end zone targets and he caught 1. So that saved his day. But that's concerning to me. Like, that's going to be hard to trust going forward. I need to see him getting more involved and on the field more. Like, it's just crazy to see that they just were like, oh yeah, you had that monster game 3 weeks ago, but you know what? We're going to play Justin Watson more. Like, what?
I do wonder if they are just like punting everything for the postseason because Kelsey, his usage has been really, and I think they're just like, look, I wanted to see what we had in Hopkins. They saw, okay, he's still that dude. And like with Kelsey, they are going to pepper these guys once we get to the playoffs and it's meaningful games. And like, that's my biggest concern. You know?
Of course, I'm totally with you. And yeah, on the flip side there, right, you talked about it, the tight end usage. Now, Kelsey is on the field a far more number of snaps than Gray. He's seeing more targets. He's running more routes. Dude, Gray's getting the end zone work now at this point, right? He's getting in like way more involved than we've ever seen Noah Gray, to the point where he is a legit tight end streamer.
Oh yeah. They got a great matchup for tight ends too, if I'm not mistaken, like the rest of the season. Like they have several. I know obviously this week versus the Raiders.
I mean, it will be hard to trust, and he's going to have some absolute dud games. But you know, if you're streaming somebody like Noah Gray, I'm going to take a wild guess, and you had like Kyle Pitts, or you had Sam Laporta, and it's like at this point, why not?
Picked up Tucker Kraft, right? Like I would rather have.
He's so maddening. Like, and again, like he'll see 4 targets, and like he might catch 2 touchdowns one game. But it's like it's so crazy. But I mean, like that's kind of like Noah Gray. But like I don't know. Funny story. I posted on Twitter and Blue Sky today. In one of my leagues, somebody dropped Sam Laporta and picked up Zach Ertz. And the entire, like, nobody even blinked in the entire league. Everybody was just kind of like,
yeah.
It's fair. That like, we get it. And the guy even wrote a comment. He was just like, I'm done with Sam Laporta, like expecting everybody to go like, oh. Everybody's like, nah, you're good. Like nobody cares.
They figured out Daniels. Ertz is the security blanket. Like it's a great role for Ertz if you need, like especially at full point PPR. Like he's had I think at least 4 receptions now in 6 straight weeks. Yeah. He's catching touchdowns consistently, and teams have basically just said you can throw it anywhere you want to, but Terry McLaurin. Luckily, Terry McLaurin is so good; he's still having big games. But that's like what teams are saying. Like Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, like do your worst. We're not gonna, we're gonna not only bracket McConkey. I've seen some plays where he's got 3 guys basically on him. Like they literally are double bracketing the dude.
Noah Brown had what 9 targets last game or something crazy like that. Like that's ridiculous. But like that's kind of what it feels like they're doing. Like teams are also taking away Kelsey to some degree too. Like they're forcing Mahomes to go somewhere else because. You know, when everybody else went down.
That's why he struggled early, right? Like, I think that's why he had some of the big-time issues, like, early in the season was exactly because of that. Because normally it's just like, we're just going to feed Kelsey in this situation. And teams are like, no, we'll double him if we have to, which is
and they still are. And now he's like, we finally figured out how to use these other guys. Yep. So good luck with that.
Pretty smart. Yeah, exactly.
So they're good. They're good on that one. So, all right, what's your second thing you want to bring up here?
I'm just tired of people overreacting to these young QBs. Like, it's like whiplash, right? Like, last year, Bryce Young's horrible. CJ Stroud's the greatest rookie quarterback to come in a generation. Now people are already shitting on CJ Stroud. This is what happens. Like, give these kids time. Like, NFL is a chess game where like players will come out, they'll prove they can do certain things. Defenses figure out what they excel at, and then they start taking it away. And then they've got to figure out other ways to beat the defense's adjustments. And that's what's going on with CJ Stroud right now. He's going to be fine. He's just got to figure it out. But we just give up on these guys so quickly. It's just like people are already turning on Jayden Daniels and saying they'd rather have Bo Nix. Get the fuck out of here. Like, yes, Bo Nix has had a great stretch. But come on, are you kidding me? Like, go watch Jayden Daniels throw the ball and where he places it, and go watch Bo Nix. And if you're telling me you'd rather have Bo Nix, you do not need to be talking about football, just period. Like, because you should go talk about golf or something else. And I love golf, but I'm just saying, that's not your sport. Just give these kids some time. And let's also, again, I've talked about this before, account for their situation, because Bryce Young had the shitty parents, you know what I mean? And he's still figuring it out. And I still believe in his talent. I'm glad to see him having some success. I'm just tired of us overreacting to everything when these guys haven't even made, 2 seasons is 34 starts that they start every one of them. And we're already just giving up on dudes, or either anointing these people as the next, Tom Brady, when they haven't made 30, 40 starts. It's insane.
Yeah. I would. There's a guy, huge football fan. He's actually a Bears fan that works at the grocery store I go to. Of course, I'm a Commanders fan.
Right.
And we were talking about the Hail Mary game. I actually didn't know he was a Bears fan until that game. We were talking football the whole time. He knew he was a Commanders fan. He's like, yeah, I was at the game, and I was like, oh, that had to be fun. He's like, yeah, not really. I'm a Bears fan. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. I'm sorry, man. No, not really. But but he was actually talking about how he's like, yeah, it's crazy how now everybody's like, oh, rookie of the year is going to go to Bo Nix or Drake May. Like, that's what people are saying now. And I'm like, yeah, they're out of their minds. There's no way that they're ahead of Jayden Daniels yet. Like,
the best 2 QBs in this draft are still the 2 first guys taken. Like, everybody keeps shitting on Caleb Williams. You look like he's thrown basically no picks. He had a horrible OC, and I still think Jayden Daniels is right now the best rookie QB out of this group, but Caleb Williams is showing more and more each week why he was the number 1 pick. So that throw he made last week was outrageous, where he's rolling right, off his back foot, and basically threw a dime 40 yards down the field. The
one where he jumped over his lineman that was on the ground too. Yes. I was like, oh my goodness, that was crazy. The awareness of him. And it's a knock on him too, because he has that backyard football mentality.
Yep.
I call it, and that's what gets him into trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
He throws picks. He threw a ton of them in college, right? Because he just extended the play, tried to rely on his athleticism too much, would roll out too much, he looked too much for the big play. He's got to learn to hone that in. That's going to take him time in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you can see every now and then, man, and it's starting to becoming more often with him. It's clicking and, more and more and more. And it's weird to say that, turning him over to the Panthers OC is actually working for him, but it is. They've simplified things for him. They're letting him go. They're letting him run too. That's the other thing. It's like, hey, you're in trouble. Just go. Yep. Just go. He's got 113 yards rushing or 103 yards rushing the last 2 games.
2 weeks, yeah.
It's way more than he's had on average the whole season. So it's clicking for him. The fact of the matter is all these guys are playing phenomenal, honestly, man. The fact that we can actually legit talk about all of them as legit options in fantasy right now. Yes, May and Caleb Williams might be more streaming options right now. But Bo Nix is legit top 10 right now. Really, Daniels is legit top 5. So it's good, man.
Get your Bo boy though a number 2 wide receiver, and I still think I've been so impressed. I've seen several Jayden Daniels games all the way through. His accuracy, unless you watch an entire game, you don't realize how many times he hits the receiver, not only in stride, but where they're not going to take a big hit. and they actually can make a move after the catch. I've been blown away with where he places the ball on a consistent basis. And again, like if they just had a number 2, like say they have I don't know what your salary is, but they go out and get T. Higgins, and you can have T. Higgins and McLaurin, say, on each side with Jane Daniels, look the F out. Because I think that's what's holding Daniels back right now is he just doesn't have another guy. I mean, again, Zach Ertz is like, Zach Ertz is a fine player, but that's
34.
basically their number 2 target. Yeah, Noah Brown and Zach Ertz are their second and third option in the passing game.
Yeah, I want to see them upgrade the O-line, get him a receiver somehow, and then they've got to go fix the defense. I know they traded for Lattimore, who hasn't even played yet. Go figure. But it's like they got to go fix this defense. It's been better than I thought it would be, but it's still pretty bad.
Especially for trading away 2 legit like pass rushing studs. Like I've been shocked how much better they've been than I thought.
Yeah, I agree. Before I get into my last one here, we got a question. There we go. Romeo, half PPR, start 1, Davante Adams, Gus Edwards, or Tracy. I will go. It's got to be Adams, right?
Yeah, I really do want to tell you Tracy and be bold, but what concerns me is that fumble again last week. And now he played, don't get me wrong, but his snap count was only 35% of the snaps after that fumble. That was a blowout, which is the other thing I keep telling people. But I do worry that, like, are they going to take away a little, less of the big carries? Like if they get near the goal line, for instance, which he had got a lot of those, are they going to trust giving him the ball over Devin Singletary? So with that,
got the score last week in that scenario. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and like with Adams again versus man, almost a 35% target rate, and how much the Seahawks run. I can't sit Davante Adams. I know it's gross, and you don't want any of that, but I think he's a safer play and has about the same upside as Tracy does.
Yeah. So my last thing, real quick, and sort of just want to get your reaction on this too. Look, I'm not calling him a bust, but I think for this season, it's time to give up on Jonathan Brooks. He's not going to be a thing. When you come back, and I get it, it was a horrible matchup for him. Kansas City is a very tough run defense, probably with the best in the league. Mm-hmm. When the coach comes out and says, "Oh, he's not going to have any restrictions," and then gives the guy 5 snaps, yeah, you're lying. He's not fully ready, in my opinion. And they don't sign Chuba Hubbard to a 4-year contract extension if they don't trust him. So to me, it's just not the year for Jonathan Brooks. I mean, I might get a lot of backlash for that. I wrote about it in my usage article. I said it's time to drop. If you held on to him, it sucks because you were hoping for big things for him, the last part of the season here, if you got this far with him. But I don't think it's worth the clogging up a roster spot because now he's no longer eligible for your IR if you had him there. So it's just not worth it. I don't know if you agree.
Unfortunately, again, I had a great year and just some of the guys that I liked for going into drafts. The 2 big whiffs were not being consistent on like taking Barkley Henry when they're available, either my first or second pick. And the other was just telling people to draft Jonathan Brooks everywhere because you could put him on the IR. It allows you to fill a roster spot like early, whether it be that first week or, after the first waiver wire, whatever, and just hold on to him. I dropped him 3 weeks ago. I gave up on him 3 weeks ago because I can't continue. Like once he came off the IR, I could not continue to like take up a spot. And I completely agree. The other thing to me, I think people keep underestimating is he is not a great one, but he's an okay one. Hubbard is a really good one. And if you have a young quarterback, the last thing you want him is getting jacked up to where now you got your franchise QB and your future running back both coming off of like knee surgeries or, major injuries. So I think that their whole goal the rest of the way is get Bryce Young's confidence back. I think Hubbard has earned the right to be the running back next to him. And why risk getting Brooks hurt? Like, yeah, just get his feet wet, give him a few carries each week. Maybe he makes a few big plays, but I said it like last week. I'd be shocked if he gets 10 touches in any game rest of season unless they're just get absolutely smoked by somebody or they're blowing a team out, which I just don't see this Panthers roster doing rest away.
Oh, they gave Kansas City a scare, man. There was a lot of people here at Fantasy Six Pack that said they absolutely would cover. And there were some people saying they would outright win. I mean, I was a little like, "Woof, that's bold." Didn't happen, but that came really close. I was shocked.
Chiefs like to play with their food, though, which is the one thing that like they look like the Warriors, like that second or third year once KD was there, where they just, like they're like, yeah, we're the best team in the NFL. None of this really matters in the Super Bowl.
They're like, here. Oh,
yeah,
just kidding. Yeah, I get it. All right, we got one last question, then we'll close it out here from Justin. Hi, guys. Would you start DJ Moore or Tyrone Tracy in half PPR? That one is also very good.
You gave me that stat about DJ Moore. I didn't realize he had been that effective.
I mean, granted, this past game was huge, so that helps.
I get that, but the targets are up again. Like he's back now where he's getting targeted a lot. And what's funny is I think he's seen the fewest targets of the three, but he's doing the most damage. And let's be honest, he's the best wide receiver right now. Like Roma Doomsday, I think will be the best Bears receiver in a year or two, but DJ Moore is still that dude. And Thomas Brown, ironically, was the scout corner for a period in Carolina, and he has flat out said, I used to go against DJ Moore in practice, and he said, this dude's one of the best wide receivers in football, so it's no surprise that he has like made him a focal point. Again, this would be another question, Justin, where like, who are you sitting? Because I do really like both of these guys' matchups. Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
Unless you're just a loaded roster, I have a hard time not starting both of these guys this week.
Yeah, man. I lean Tracy. Detroit's been like super sneaky good, but like you brought up the usage, right? So like I'm just gonna preview my article here a little bit. So like you can't really see it well on the screen here, but like this is what it is, right? I go through all the teams, and this is the receivers, and so what I do is I give the snap counts, the routes run, the targets, and then the end zone targets for the last week, right? And then I kind of like in my analysis, I kind of bring in other like season trends and like the last couple of weeks. You're right. He's seen the least amount of targets. Dude, I knew Keenan Allen was having a great game last week. 16 targets?
Yes.
I was like, oh my goodness. Like, okay. That's not gonna happen again. But and I mean, even Cole Kmet saw 10. That was kind of wild. Like
they're literally just throwing the ball.
Cole Kmet's been a ghost of himself, though, man. Like that's not usual for him.
No, I'm with you. It's the receivers.
It's three receivers getting all of it, and they're usually pretty even with like the targets and everything else. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something to me that says exploit Tracy in this Dallas against this in this matchup against Dallas.
And I apologize, Justin. He did put in his chat. You're right. I can't sit Sutton, Collins, Jacobs, Bijan. So, yeah, that would have to be a great draft by you. That's a really good roster. So, I mean, with that kind of team, I would probably go, the safe play. And I think that's actually Tracy, right? Like, don't you think he's the safest of those three?
He's also got Brian Thomas Jr., BTJ.
Well, that's true. I forgot. If Lawrence is back, I would actually play BTJ over. I think
that's tough though. In a half PPR though, I don't know if I.
That's fair. You're right. I keep forgetting that you're not getting the point.
It is hard. So I don't know. I didn't probably tell you this for the show, but when I do these start sit questions, I use my half because the Fantasy Pros accuracy contest uses my half. So it's kind of what I go with. But yeah, it's interesting to see it. But yeah, I lean Tracy with the half PPR format. Just a little bit more workload. And actually another question came in, so we're going to get one snuck in here. Armin, possible flex start to Hunt, McNichols, Disley. And there's a lot to decide here. You got to wait for the age.
I missed that.
I don't think I realized that either, but flex, you got to go Hunt still. I know Pacheco's back, but with those options, I think you do. If we know Robinson and Eckler are out, which it's looking like that's probably going to happen, McNichols is the two. if not, I mean,
I like Westbrook and King. I'm
Disley.
gonna
I
ride it
mean,
until it's.
I know, I
broke.
get it. I was gonna say if
6
you
out
need
of
us a little bit
7.
safer of a floor,
Woo.
because Disley is gonna get with I think without Dobbins, you're right. I think they're gonna have to lean on this passing game a little more. So Disley could get a bunch of targets that he doesn't normally get. And although he's had some games where he's been crazy involved. Dude, Westbrook and Keenan he just lives in the end zone. It
defies
nuts.
logic at this point. They have 13 passing touchdowns this season. He's caught a touchdown in 6 out of the last 7 games. Explain that.
You can't. What I'm gonna love is next year people are gonna go, yeah, Westbrook and Keenan in like the 10th round. I'm gonna be like, have fun. Like, good luck
He's
with that
still
one.
only owned in 1%, so I don't know if we're gonna get there. So,
God.
Oh,
Geez. It'll stop. I got to close the show out. Got offered Debo for Marvin Harrison.
don't do it.
I don't
don't trust
want
Debo.
Dude, I'm actually sitting Debo in a league where it's between, and I don't like it either. It's Garrett Wilson. So start 3 receivers and a flex. So it's Garrett Wilson. Crap, I'm gonna have to look it up now because I'm totally. So just to kind of give you some real life decisions that I'm having to make here.
I'm sorry, absolutely, I would do that in a second. We don't know. He's saying he would get Harrison. It's actually he's giving away Debo.
Oh yeah, I would do it, but yeah, I mean, like just to let you know, like this is the decision I'm having to make, right? I think it's in it's in the Fantasy Six Pack. I call it the Fantasy Six Pack OG League. It's been around since like 2015. Bunch of like listeners and things like that, or readers that we had back in the day. But yeah, my receivers are T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, Javonte Williams, Darnell Mooney, and Debo.
Yeah,
I'm legit sitting Debo. I don't know what to do with him.
No, I absolutely.
Am I like I think I'm crazy for that, but like I can't.
I know. Unless it changes and they start like, say if Brock's out and then they start using him as the, a runner more, which I actually thought they would be doing at numerous times this season and they really haven't. He's just not the wide receiver he was. And Quinn, the good news about that for the next 2 weeks, like obviously I don't think the trade would go through before the Vikings game. 2 weeks they play the Seahawks, 32% man defense, which is one of, again, top 10 rate. Then the Patriots a week before, which is around 40%. Again, Harrison over a 40% target share this season versus man. Like his man zone splits are outrageous. So you get 2 really good matchups there. Then the Panthers, who are bad pass defense, the Rams, who we've seen bad pass defense, and then hopefully it would be over because the Cardinals actually have been pretty good versus wide receivers. But that's a pretty good slate for the 4 weeks that you would basically have Harrison. So yeah, I love that just in general.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm actually trying to trade Debo to a 49ers fan in that league. Hopefully he bites.
If Purdy's healthy, Jennings is the guy, man. 40%.
I know. I'm just trying to tug on his heartstrings. I just want him off my team. I don't want to worry about him anymore. All right, so that's all we got for the show. Thanks, Keith, for stepping in this week, and thanks everybody for listening. Keith, let everybody know where they can find you and what else you got going on the rest of the season.
Sure. You can find me obviously on Twitter at Keith Flemming. You can find me on TikTok at Keith Flemming DFS. I do a spot on ESPN Northwest Florida every Wednesday with the guys from Inside Drive, which also have Joe Bond on it. Shows how smart they are about having good fantasy football analysts, where we talk DFS. Starting in January, we will be pivoting after February after Super Bowl to golf. And I will be doing the same for Fantasy Six Pack. You're seeing right now, I do the DFS Stacks article and podcast show with Joe Matz covering DFS. We will be pivoting to golf. Last year, not as good as the year before in golf, but still had 7 winners out of 20. I believe it was 9 events that I covered. The year before, I had 11. Do pretty well in DFS as well. I played golf, have a golf background. I love football because of the numbers, but I really just know the game of golf. So if you follow golf, you gamble on it, play DFS, be sure to follow me, especially once golf season rolls around. Sorry, I don't do the Mickey Mouse tour that's going on right now. Like it's only once the big events start in February. I'd rather play football. There's more money in it, especially on the DFS side.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are wondering, should you be an all access member, dude, play some DFS golf with Keith, man. There's DFS baseball, there's DFS basketball. We got DFS hockey. We got all that kind of stuff. Keith and I are working on some stuff to bring over some data for people to look at with some of the golf to back up all his points and just give you some extra data to look at for yourself. Make your own decisions, right? It's your lineup. You make your own decisions, right? We can point you in our direction. You may not agree, and that's fine. We're not always right. But yeah, so we're working on some things there. So just some extra incentive to become a member. And look, take advantage of that Black Friday deal. 48% off. It ain't coming back. I promise you. It's not coming back. So it'll be around probably the rest of this week and weekend, through Cyber Monday or whatever, I guess. And then it's gone. So that being said, thanks everybody. And we will see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving.